Everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, reporter of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of Bye Bye, a weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream crafting the deep, in which I built and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Mac, Savra, or Toro, this is not the right stream for you, but the rest of you are. Of course, welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. We are talking about the Styes. We're talking about Mr. Dory. I was busy making Mr. Dory 2.0, and I realized, wait, wasn't I going to turn him into a Deep Scion Warlock instead of a Scum? So now I'm waffling on what the hell I'm supposed to do with this boss while I'm trying to rebalance this warehouse event, which is about to transpire as the party is coming in on a wagon. I don't even know how to... I don't have a big enough map. I remember I complained about this with a lot of maps do this, and it's not Bear's fault, but that, you know, the outside of the dungeon is only like the barest amount of space, and of course that's where the players are going to end up hanging out a lot. Also, we're going to be down a player next session. Reese is going to be on vacation, so Twirl is going to not get out of that box that him and Savra got in, which leaves Mac and Gottwald as the drivers. Hopefully we're not going to need a map until they basically make it inside the warehouse. I'm not going to make it very difficult for them to be able to bluff their way inside. And even the guards themselves are just there to really guard the workers and make sure they're working. Nobody expects anybody to put up any kind of resistance or any kind of threat or anything after, from within the town. But of course, these folks are outsiders, so that's a different matter. The Manticore is going to be the real threat here. Now, do we need to talk about rebalancing the Manticore encounter since we're going to be down a player character for this session? I don't know. I hate to say, it might be mean to say it, but I feel like Twirl is quite possibly the least impactful player character when it comes to balance. Hunger of Hadar is obviously a huge thing that he does. That's kind of all he does. And bless his heart, he forgot. I mean, he wasn't even using, Agonizing Blast for the first 30 sessions or whatever we were running it for. So his damage potential has been nerfed unknowingly for so long. So maybe that's part of it. But I feel like if they, they would lose a lot by losing, Gottwald's tankiness, max DPS, or Savra's AoE DPS and minions and stuff. So Twirl doesn't have any of those things quite yet. He does have Banishment, which we haven't... did he take Banishment? I forget which one he took actually at 4th level. I haven't actually seen any of their 8th level stuff in action, by the way, because we have not had a fight yet. So even though I'm kind of like, oh, I need to look at the balance again because we're losing a player character, they're also still fully rested, having just leveled up. So if anything, I can still throw this fight at him and just like maybe shave some off of other fights. But also this is the least... I mean, I don't know. It's still an interesting fight though. It doesn't have all the creepy like Deep Scion. If anything, I would probably reduce the number of Deep Scion like guards and shit they fight later if I need to. But I still kind of like the Manticores. What I could do maybe is reduce their hit points a little bit. That's something that balance-wise is pretty easy for me to do. Allows me to kind of not really fudge numbers, but I can always fudge hit points. And the bad thing is once I introduce, this number of enemies, I can't really reduce that number of enemies without really cheating. The only thing I can do is fudge on their hit points a little bit. So one thing I could do to change the balance is not introduce all three at the same time. For example, I could have one or two poke their heads out, have a full even round, and then maybe the third one comes in later. But I fully expect the players to unleash a lot of things because they're fully rested at all. So I'm leaning towards maybe still using the Manticores, but possibly keeping one of them at bay and for another like round or something and kind of divide them up. Bird Box enters 2 weeks later. Horrible Squid Man leaves. His next class. That's like the promotion that like what Fire Emblem and all those kind of tactical games do, where you can like promote somebody to the next tier of class and becomes a slightly different class. Warlock becomes a Fathomless Warlock, becomes a Deep Scion Warlock, which I liked because I think we just liked the Scum stat block, which I do, but the Deep Scion, what I'm wanting Mr. Dory and this whole warehouse faction to be really it's all Kraken Society here. Everything is Kraken Society except the Mind Flayer showed up and had, I don't know how, acquired a Kraken, and this was like the best place to be able to try to raise said Kraken. Maybe that was something that the Mind Flayers did off camera. They're like, all right, we found one, or maybe we were able to breed one from Slarkwerthel or something weird happened. But we can't raise it anywhere near the other one. We got to raise it on its own. But we have to have like infrastructure in place to be able to do that. So this one, corrupt city is already feeding all this hate and energy into the Kraken Society, and as the Mind Flayers in charge of the Kraken, we can immediately take over that cult in that's already here. So everything so far is just going to be Kraken Society stuff. And then importantly, once they actually fight Mr. Dory, he will either surrender, which I'll try to do, or they'll have like notes in there that point to like a new boss that came in and basically has a lot of information without necessarily having to say everything that's going on. I want to tease the fact that they were hired, that basically he's not the head honcho. He kind of is, but that he's even, answers to somebody else, which is now the Mind Flayer that came in. An emissary, like an emissary of the Fathomless showed up. And we have our new mission. It's an important one, and they won't spell it out in the information, or at least and I can do the thing where like if he's talking too much, then his brain fries or something exciting, so it doesn't give away too much information, I suppose. I did kind of reorder some of the enemies in this area, by the way. The ship is supposed to have like 2 bad guys here and 2 or 3 here, I believe. I reduced that number and just put all 3 of them in the middle of the ship, and that way the party has a chance to like scoot down into this pool area and get to the first door. However, because there's a 90% chance this will be a huge cool fight up here with 4 deep scions. By the way, I'm using the Thug token, but we made it last time into a multi-sided token so they can bonus action shift into their deep scion forms of that added bit of horror element. If they're fighting up on top of the ship, then you damn well better be sure that the bad guys down here are going to be fully aware of that. So I will have an interesting, which I haven't really pulled off, I don't think hardly at all in this campaign, was a chance for me to actually surprise the party by having a classic kind of Overwatch mode where the party maybe tries to breach this door, open it, whatever, and immediately launch a flurry of attacks at them because obviously they've made a bunch of noise on the top of the ship. Again, assuming that's a big fight up there. And then all of these deep scions, which also have the multi-sided token, but I figured this is why they're in here, is because they're kind of soaking themselves in this nice hot springs bath, and they're like really grooving on that, so they don't need to be in full-on disguise mode, so all the masks are off inside of the ship here, which I have not rolled for hit points. We can do that real quick. There we go. I think I may also edit their armor class a little bit. This 11 armor class really upsets me. If they're supposed to be like people who can transform into fish people, then I would think that they would at least have as good a armor as like leather armor or something. I haven't looked up armor earlier. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like even basic ass leather armor, let's see, is it 11 plus your dex, I think? Where is, just search for leather armor, Eric. I can do that. I'm trying to remember. Somebody will be able to know that off the top of their head, I'm sure. Leather. If I just click one of these, will it tell me? Leather armor of fire resistance. Yeah, 11 plus dex. So I nailed it. Which tells me that at the very least, I think, well, I guess it's only plus 1 dex, since I think they only have a plus 1. Yeah. So maybe 11 plus 1. Ooh, Kraken Priest is an interesting one. I think that's what Tentrix is, though. Kraken Priest. Yeah, I think that's what Tentrix is. Let's check. He might be a unique version of a Kraken Priest. Are you under, let's see. Aim to NPCs. Are you under T for Tentrix or S for Sea King Tentrix? It is S. Yeah, I think his stat block looks very Kraken Priesty. Which is actually a higher CR also. assume Kraken Priest is in here too somewhere. So that might be a little too high level for what I'm looking for here. Never mind. He's twice the CR value of a Kraken Priest. Good lord. Okay. Geez. He's got the same Thunderous Touch and the same voice of the Kraken, but he's got multi-attack, more hit points, more armor class. Kraken Priest has AC 10. I guess he's just got robes. Legendary actions. Okay. And more powerful spells. Call Lightning, Everard's Black Tentacles, Hunger Vidar, Phantasmal Killer. Once per day each. Versus Call Lightning, Everard's Black Tentacles. Now you got me thinking about Kraken Priest, though, Sylvan. Alright, well, maybe I should put it to a vote for the Dory stat block, because I'm kind of waffling back and forth. The Deep Sight Warlock's a little too strong, but I could always scale it down. And then the Scum, which is what this would be, is okay. It definitely would make sense here. Kind of like Mr. Dory as a spellcaster, though, at least like a little bit of a one. But we do have a pull functionality, so why don't we turn it into a pull? All right. The one thing I don't want to do is use his original stat block, because his original stat block is ridiculous in every way. It's a CR10. First of all, it's one reason I'm scaling this down, right? This is all for 11th level PCs, and my party is level 8. So I'm scaling it down. But he's got this unique stat block with 170 hit points. This Eye of Corruption he can do, which does like 50 damage. Magic resistance, and all these insane spells. Fireball, Fly, Cloud Kill, Etherealness. Just a fucking like it just, I picture like a DM just like cackling behind their screen with like all these bullshit abilities. Just like, what the fuck? These are insane. So I don't want to use the OG stat block. I'm not putting that as an option. So instead, your options are going to be the following. For Mr. Dory, you can only vote once, and you don't have to vote right away. I'll leave it up for probably my whole stream. Might as well. Or most of it anyway. So I think we're down to kind of a top 3, but if you have another option, then let me know. And all of these, as I said, I can, change to different variants. So, stat block for Mr. Dory, the Scum, which is this one right here, does the mind-bending touch. Short sword, it's just a straight melee attacker, about 100 hit points. Pretty strong, though the mind-bending touch is kind of scary. The Deep Scion Warlock, which is from Monster Manual Expanded... one of them, anyway, would be very thematic here because I'm using all his minions as Deep Scion. Certainly, yeah, probably has a ton of hit points. I would probably scale that down. And is basically a Deep Scion with a spell casting capabilities, including Everard's Black Tentacles, Lightning Bolt, Tidal Wave, very thematic with a Fathomless Worshipper or Kraken Society Worshipper. Has a constant, damaging aura, which is always nice, and then has the Psychic Screech of a Deep Scion, as well as this Howling Void, which sounds kind of similar to a Hunger Vidar, but frightens instead of, what does the other one do? Restrain you, or maybe just blocks your vision or something, and obviously does damage. So that's the Deep Scion Warlock, and then the third option is what Sylvan just brought up, which is something I hadn't thought of, embarrassingly, even though it makes perfect sense also, is the Kraken Priest, which is actually the lowest... No, never mind. It's tied with the Scum for CR. They're both CR5. And instead of it being a melee attacker, although he's got a hell of a melee attack, he just does it once with 5d10 thunder damage with a +5. Which it makes sense that somebody high up would be, obviously a Kraken Society would be a Kraken Worshipper and have those kind of abilities. Voice the Kraken can make everybody frightened, and then has some thematic spells like Call Lightning, Everard's Black Tentacle. So that might be a good compromise between what I would want from the Deep Scion. Maybe the option is I combine like what Sylvan just said. Why not both? They're all, you can combine these abilities. I don't want to get too crazy, but maybe there's some kind of middle ground, or you just give the Kraken Priest a few more spells or something like. But I think this is a cool opportunity, especially in this particular uh, fight that's going to come up, to have a spellcaster very well protected in the back, while you've got a bunch of minions up front, and all of them are ready for the PCs to come, because they'll have to fight their way onto the ship where they'll be literally like tromp, 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 like all above. So all the bad guys will know there's goings on afoot. The party fights Borgus. use all three creatures. So one thing the book, the adventure says, which I don't even have open right now, is that there are a bunch of dudes in here. So you're thinking I need to add more creatures to this? I would be shocked if we make it inside the ship. I don't think we will this coming session. I think, we'll have, depending on how big the roleplay scene goes, that could last a while in the warehouse. The Manticore fight could last a while. And then we may not even make it to this crane battle, or we may do the crane battle, because this is going to be kind of a big fight. Although it may end quickly, depending on if we can shove people 50 feet down or something. It could be interesting. But in other words, I think we'll have a whole nother week to probably talk about the inside of the ship, but I'm trying to get ahead of things. That being said, there are extra creatures inside the ship. There is another, let's see, what is it? And these guys are all usually scum, not Deep Scion. That's something I changed to scale it down, because Deep Scion are CR3 versus the CR5 scum. There's a hateful man named Herod. Is this just a commoner? Oh no, he's an assassin. Jesus. So there's an assassin stat block in here, which is crazy, because those are pretty fucking hard. With his damn 46 sneak attack, assassinate, all that nasty stuff. He's just soaking in here. He's like the new, I think, yeah, he's a new transformed by the Aboleth, so he'd be like the equivalent of Mr. Dory, but an assassin stat block. And then in the Dory's chambers, Dory's got a flesh golem. It's supposed to just look like a fish creature, which is a CR5. That's crazy pants. Now, you may be arguing that, like, Eric, you've gone too far. You've reduced too many things. These are brand new level 8s. Like, fine, that's an argument we can have, but jeebus, that's nasty pants, I think. I guess the one thing I'd be willing to maybe do is Mr. Dory as like a Kraken priest type thing, and then also do maybe like the scum as like a minion he's got. I feel like the scum is a little too sexy. Maybe the Chul, because I think there's Chuls later. I did miss this, by the way. There are Chuls later in T4 at the Lamp Shadow, which is the next area they go to. It's literally called the Chul Haunted Hallway. 4 Chuls, which is also going to be way too many. I'll have to reduce that number too. Having 3 players will be a huge difference. Right, so, and unfortunately, I think I'm going to have 3 players for the next 2 sessions. Reese is going to be gone this coming week, and then Raymond will be out the week after that. So that is something I will probably have to be looking at, erring on the side of caution when it comes to all these enemies and stuff. So, but you got to kind of get a feel for like how strong these Deep Scion really are. I was thinking about giving them more AC at least. 11 just seems embarrassing to me. I mean, they got to be wearing basic armor, right? Especially if they look like guards when they transform. Like, they should have at least the same armor as a guard. What does a normal thug have? What does a thug have for armor? All right, fuck you, game. Seriously, a thug also has 11 AC? Okay. What do I know? Well, it's 11 plus dex, and they've got a plus 0 dex. So, if anything, the Deep Scion has a plus 1. So, I'm going to say the Deep Scions now have 12 AC. Unilaterally. Which should update for all of them now that I just did that. Yep. There you go. I boosted their AC by 1. I don't know if that'll make any fucking difference. But it upsets me that their AC is so low. It upsets me. Where's our feelings at with the scum, or with the Mr. Dory? We're liking the Kraken Priest, yeah. Thunderous Touch does thunder damage. And DC 14 charisma saving throw, be frightened for 1 minute. I want to kind of reflavor that, and less like the creature is speaking the Kraken's voice and more like doing weird tentacle shit that scares him. Like you assault you with visions of. Also, charisma is interesting. Charisma saving throw. I don't think anybody's good at charisma saving throws. Well, I guess the warlock would be. But being able to cast Call Lightning. Is Call Lightning the one where you channel it for a while and it keeps zapping people? But you have to be able to see, right? Spell fails if you can't see a point in the air where the storm clouds could appear. That wouldn't really work here. But we could do Everard's Black Tentacles. What did the warlock have that I was looking at? Just straight up lightning bolt could be kind of useful. Zap. Although, always tough, I feel, to give your boss enemies big AoEs because presumably you also want to throw your minions at the party to get between you and yourself. Thus, you got to be careful with using AoE attacks. Now, that would actually go remarkably well with the Flesh Golem, if we still had the Flesh Golem. Which I guess is just a callback to, like, Frankenstein. The fact that lightning heals them. Cone of Cold could also be used. But again, it's the odds of hitting my own dudes are a little upsetting. So, of course, I guess the same thing would happen with Everard's Black Tentacles. Screaming Void. Extraplanar Rift is not exactly... I'd probably just change that to Hunger of Hadar. In fact, it would make perfect sense if you could cast Hunger of Hadar because also a Fathomless Worshipper. Is Everard's Black Tentacles better than Hunger of Hadar? What the fuck is Everard? So Hunger is like a 3rd level spell, I believe. Everard's a 4th level. 20-foot square is much smaller than Hunger of Hadar, I believe. Tentacles turn the ground in difficult terrain. When a creature enters the affected area or starts its turn there, they must succeed on a dex save or take 3d6 bludgeoning damage and be restrained by tentacles. And if you start your turn in the area and you're already restrained, you just straight up take 3d6 bludgeoning damage. Restrain is pretty great. I do not believe Hunger of Hadar does that, because I've gotten out of it many a time. I think Hunger of Hadar just basically does damage and then blocks your vision. 20-foot radius sphere of blackness and bitter cold appears. The void is filled. Yeah. The void. Yeah, no light, magical, otherwise eliminate the area creatures when they're fully blinded. So it's like a violent fog cloud. A very violent fog cloud that deals multiple kinds of damage at different times, which is a pain in the butt to keep track of. Also, really long range, 150 feet. So Everard's is fun, and that's actually a manageable AoE to roll with, although it is concentration. Does he have a go-to ranged attack he can do? At will, create or destroy water, command, 3 times a day, control water, darkness, water breathing, water walk. None of which are really usable in combat. I guess darkness, but you'd rather concentrate on Everard's Black Tentacles. So no, you don't even have like Shocking Touch or something. I mean, he's got Thunderous Touch, but that's a melee attack, not a range attack. And he's got Voice of the Kraken he can use once. He doesn't have like a... He needs like a low-level range attack he can do. Did I get rid of the Warlock? Shoot. Warlock, come back. What did I do with you? That's the kind of stuff I look at, because it's like, all right, I've already got my spell going. What do I do with this guy? I don't want to get a melee, and I've got no options. Like, that's not good. Check magic, guidance, levitate, mage armor, mage hand, minor illusion, prestidigitation, or speak with dead. None of them have just like a basic ranged attack. Thorn whip. Yeah, that's a good one, Michael. Thorn whip is a tentacle. I actually like that idea a lot. All right, so if we're gonna do that, we got another vote for the Deep Sign Warlock. Dun dun dun. The Deep Sign Warlock might just be too strong, might be too bold for me to do it. But I think we can take the Kraken Priest. So let's do this. Let's grab the Kraken Priest. And maybe just make sure it's got all the skills we want it to have. Like I said, we're not going to get to Mr. Dory probably till the next week, but it's good to be prepared. H-I-J-K, Kraken Priest, where are you? There you are. You don't even have a token, you poor bastard. We're going to take you. We're going to duplicate you. And going to drag you up to here. We're going to delete this one because I'm no longer, I think I'm divorced from making it a scum. It's going to be what we can use this stat block. We don't have to use it necessarily in this adventure, but it is pretty cool. And I think it actually was it created for the purposes of this adventure? I mean, this adventure is not over. We still have a chance to use this scum. Or we could put the scum in the room, but I think it's going to get too crazy. And we're going to rename you Mr. Dory. Dory. I'm going to use that token, although I'm going to have to change that in a second. I don't think I can actually change your avatar yet, which is annoying. Sure, that's how I want it to be. And change this to Mr. Dory. That way we can edit it without fucking up my initial stat block. Honestly, I mean, Everett's Black Tentacles is great. Maybe instead of Call Lightning, we give him Lightning Bolt. What level is Call Lightning? Call Lightning's 3rd level. I think Lightning Bolt's also 3rd level. Trying to keep things. Yeah. I think we can just replace that with Lightning Bolt. That's a big instant damaging one. He'll most likely hit his allies with, but it will. But that way, so we can't use Call Lightning. So Lightning Bolt is a once per day. Everett's Black Tentacles would be a once per day. I guess Command could be a kind of a fun at will. That's one thing you could do. Succeed on a whiz save or follow the command on its next turn. A one-word command. Drop. And picking up an item, does that take anything? Like, I'm not sure why you'd care about dropping. I guess you could have somebody else pick it up. I know I gets really awkward when you get into the weeds of like equipping and all that shit. That's why we never really worry about it in our game. Flee is a lot better. The target spends its turn moving away from you by the fastest available means. I don't know why you wouldn't just choose Flee every time, because that fucks up its turn. That provokes opportunity of attacks. I guess Grovel would make him go prone. Halts. Yeah, Command might be kind of a fun one. In fact, one additional creature. I'd really like him to do more, but I guess if he has at will Command, I guess he can't actually spend additional spell slots, can he? I mean, I don't need Shocking Grasp because I got Thunderous Touch. I just need another range thing you can do, really. Thunderous Touch does 5d10 damage with a +5 to hit. That's going to be the go-to attack. Also, I should probably reduce his hit points. Mr. Dory, the Kraken Priest, has a max of 80, 90, 100, 110 hit point max. So maybe we'll give him like just 100 hit points. Oh yeah, I'm gonna make sure to change this one to what did I just call it? Mr. Dory 2.0. Story. Shit, I didn't call it Mr. Dory 2.0. Should have done that. Now there will be no confusion. I even kept the original stat block just in case. Then we can keep his face looking all weird and shit. Because that is kind of a nice token. All right, there we go. And your name is Story. I think your AC is still 14. Is that right? Mind Whip is a great go-to. AC 10? AC 10 for the Kraken Priest? I guess he's just wearing people clothes. What's the Scum's AC? 14 natural armor. What's Mr. Dory's original AC? $18 with leather armor and shield. Look at these fucking numbers. All right, I think I'm gonna settle on 14. I think I'm gonna make his AC a 14. I like the idea of having some like natural armor. Is like skin's all rubbery and shit. I think I'm gonna go with that. I have corruption is such bullshit. Make a DC 15 con save and a failed save. It takes 5d10 necrotic and 5d10 poison damage and gains vulnerability to both necrotic and poison damage for 1 minute. Who came up with this stat block? It is the most bullshit stat block I've ever seen. It's like literally a demon was like, oh yeah, well then this does this and this and this. And it's like, man, what are you doing? I've got all the coolest spells. 20 dex, 19 con, 170 hit points, 18 AC, of course. He's also wearing leather armor and a shield while doing all this. Yeah, that stat block actually drives me crazy. So Dory 2.0. I think we're settling on a slightly modified Kraken Priest. With better hit points. Go ahead and change it here. 14. Better hit points will make that a 100, I believe, now that he's showing the right shit right there. Yeah, so 100 hit points, 14 AC, still very boss level. We changed Call Lightning for Lightning Bolt. And what did we other suggest? Mind something, Mind Whip, or Mind Spike is also a thing, right? Let's see. Oh yeah, Mind Whip's actually a second level spell. It's a great one though. 2d6 psychic damage. I love that the debuff feels interesting and fair while still hurting a lot. Versus a lot of other ones which just really suck. Like you get your whole turn shut down. This one you can at least choose to get a move, action, or bonus action. Gets only one of the three. It takes 3d6 psychic damage. Yeah, that is a good one. That's something I've copied for enemies to do before. When I just want to do some kind of like psychic attack, I'm just like fucking copy Mind Whip because it's just great. It does damage and has a good debuff that doesn't feel like total bullshit. Mind Spike, was that the cantrip? No, it's also a second level spell. Damn. Does he have any second level spells normally? Control water, darkness, water breathing, water walk. I'm sure some of those are at least second level, right? Control water. Darkness is definitely second level. I don't know about the others. Mind Spike just means you know it. One creature you can see within range. Start becoming hidden from you, invisible, gain a benefit for the condition. So they can't become invisible. This does 3d8 psychic damage. Or was the other one Thorn Whip, but like a tentacle? Mind Sliver? Is that the one I was thinking of? There we go. Mind Sliver is a cantrip. I'm feeling there was a freaking cantrip one. Yeah, there's not minus is the D4. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't do very much damage. Although it's intelligence save, which is not one players usually have very good on. Subtracting a d4 from the next save it makes before the end of your next turn. It wouldn't really combo really well here, except for him casting another spell. I am going to have this water be damaging to the players, though, by a little bit. I think I was going to scale that up. It says in the text that the water does like 1 fire damage or something. Yeah, the water in areas D7, D8, and D9 isn't boiling, but it is uncomfortably hot and exceedingly foul. Any creature that starts its turn into the steaming water takes 1 fire damage and is poisoned until the end of its next turn. And of course, the creatures who are here are like loving it. They're all about that, which is a great hazard to have for the DM to employ. Creatures that are specifically immune to the hazard and only harm the players, and they have to battle within this area. And I love that their first entrance, this is some real like fucking Shigeru Miyamoto like design shit, where like the players first jump into this place, they quickly realize this water is damaging and hurts, they got to get out of it, and then they open the next room and it's bad guys in that area with more of that damaging water. So you're like, oh no. I think I'm going to scale it up slightly and say you take 1d4 fire damage and you have the poisoned condition. I feel like there should be probably a save though, right? Anytime you fuck with the players, I feel like they always expect a save and not that like the thing is just going to happen to them. It doesn't say that it happens here though. It's just because even if you like, correct me if I'm wrong, but even if you fall in lava, don't you still get to take a save? Or is it just you take this much damage? There's no save because you're already in there. Look that up. Is there lava rules? There's not. There are lava creatures, but I guess lava's just whatever tide, whatever venture it's in. Or players okay automatically taking the damage if they stay. Now, it's not automatic. I will say it starts your turn, so you can get in and get out, and that's you like jumping in and out. But if you're specifically start your turn in the water, that's when you start taking the damage because you've been in there a long time. And I was going to scale it up to just 1d4 fire damage just to make the players. I think it's fun to have something roll. And then the poisoned condition, which is that's actually the way worse debuff, obviously, getting disadvantage on your shit because the water's so nasty and boiling. Deep Scions could regenerate the same amount as the players take damage from the water. That's nasty. Just have them, like, that's why they're here. They just regenerate. Only like 1d4, but yeah, that'd be interesting. The art, unfortunately, doesn't quite have it be like, some squares are in and some are out of the water. So, and I'm sure the players will constantly asking me, oh, can I stand here and not be in and here? And I would say, and obviously you can jump, like everybody's got, what is the jumping distance? Is just whatever your strength score is. And there's only like, this is 5 feet here. So you're maybe looking at 7 feet to jump, and everybody can jump that. But perhaps the Deep Scions can grapple and grab people into it, or it just makes it hard to maneuver around anyway. And like Mr. Dory can be back here and fire, the Everett's Black Tentacles right at the entrance. Oops, sorry, I should scroll down. Forgot I'm blocking the view here. And be able to nail them right there in the entryway. Yeah, first time you enter. Well, that makes sense for lava. All right, so we're okay with the hazard being the damage thing. I guess the save would be like not falling in, but if you're already in there, then you're just taking that damage. But I like the idea of them knowing feels like boiling hot water going through the crate. I think you're supposed to be able to break this crate open, but I would just let the players jump in. Because otherwise, how the fuck do the deep scions get in and out anyway? They can jump in, but when they hit the water, uh, I guess, if they hit the water, um, I guess I could do that too. That's tricky because we're not in combat. So I wonder how I should rule if I'm saying when you start your turn here, you take the damage and you're poisoned. What happens if you do it out of combat? Do I say, oh, you guys scramble out of there really quick before you can take the damage? Or, how does that work? And obviously, if they try to look down and say, oh, there's this nasty water down there, and they try to, like, miss the water, then that would actually be, like, athletics or something. I haven't decided on that. I think that's going to be enough, though, frankly. Like, it doesn't have to be that crazy. And I think, because there's still more to come. Like, this is, again, we've got all these deep scion guards up here, which may get reduced because we'll have, I think, fewer players for, like I said, the next 2 weeks. They've got the mana cores, and they've got these deep scions, and then the Mr. Dory, who is a slightly beefed up Kraken priest, which should make for a pretty entertaining warehouse. And don't forget, they can still bring the whole warehouse down in flames. That's an event that can happen, which is pretty nifty. I have no idea. I think the crane stays standing if that happens, but the entire warehouse can be inflamed. There's a whole system where, like, so many rounds go by, and then the whole thing, the top halves collapse, and all this, everybody takes like fire damage ongoing. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And it's to where every damage, basically, it's almost very likely during the Manticore fight that the warehouse will go up in flames. And plus, how can I not do that, right? Like, how often do you get a chance to put the players inside of a giant burning building? Not often enough, I say. There's a 20% chance if any effect deals damage in an area, so you do have to do an area of effect. Other than necrotic poison or psychic damage, there's a 20% chance the nearby crate explodes. Now, Twirl's not here, so that might actually help them because he's got Hunger of Hadar. However, if Savra, for example, throws a Shatter down, thunder damage would certainly warrant. And what I would do is have that player roll a d6. I would probably also try and explain the fact they all look like they're, say, fragile on them, and they look like they're full of a bunch of compounds and things. Not necessarily telling them they're all flammable, but, like, try to make it so it's not like this huge, shocking thing. Bye, Michael. And then they get the hint that, like, oh, they're all going to explode. Okay. But so you're basically roll a D6 on a 1 or a 2. A crate explodes, which sends the entire place exploding, dealing a fireball's worth of damage, 8d6 fire damage to each creature in the warehouse, or half damage on a DC 15 dex saving throw. Literally, it sets off a fireball in the entire warehouse with a DC 15. And then every round, every creature takes 1d6 fire damage. Then 2d4 rounds later, the warehouse upper floors collapse, which triggers another DC saving throw, or to take more fire damage and bludgeoning damage. And then after that happens, you start taking twice as much fire damage every round. And it's just bad news. You got to get the fuck out of there. Like, the only thing that still stands after that, I think the whole warehouse collapses, is the crane. Is its own structure, although it shows a wooden walkway. I guess the wooden walkway is still around it here. But the actual crane goes all the way down to the bottom. That one image is just not correct with what the text says. And it still stands, and the ship still stands, and I guess they don't catch on fire, which is awkward because it's like, oh, well, then we got to go back and, like, take this guy out or something, or maybe the enemies, I don't know. Hopefully the party still thinks they can get in there and do their thing, but I think that would be an amazing addition to this fight that complicates things. It's almost enforced that the Manticores can't set it off, but also makes sense. Like, why would you employ guards who would be able to, destroy your whole warehouse like that? So nothing that does just direct damage has that chance, but any kind of AoE, which I think is mostly just Savra and Twirl, has a 20% chance to set it off, which is pretty exciting. I think that's good for the warehouse for now, though. Do we want to look at the next area? I think the warehouse is looking pretty dang good so far. Technically 2 areas, although this is where we might have to start modifying and changing things around because we're not using the Aboleth, we're using a Mind Flayer instead. So from Mr. Dory or from his notes, they will learn the location of the next area. It just says that in the first sentence, but they learn the temple from questioning Mr. Dory or from studying the documents found in his lair. The character should make seeking the temple their next move. This will, of course, be a Kraken Society temple for the Fathomless and not for Tharizdun, like it says. Let's see. I'm ignoring all this because I'm not using the pair of aboleths. None of that. The temple is located near Father's Lamp in the low quarter at sunset. Shadow of the abandoned lighthouse stretches out to point in the general direction of the temple, a structure coupled together from a partially sunken galley and some empty apartments on an abandoned pleasure pier. Cool location for a nasty temple, which I have this map also provided by Bear Gardner, who has done all of our amazing map art for Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This looks absolutely fabulous. And includes, as I said, a partially buried ship, which is their temple. It looks very destroyed on this map, my goodness. And then there's the haunted hallway. And I believe this is where they actually fight the Aboleth in the original adventure. And then I don't think I've actually got the very last part of the map from Bear. But I'm not sure I'm even going to need this one. So we'll have to look and see how this works. And it's actually optional if the DM wants to even have the cult like in attendance at the moment that the players arrive as well. The section assumes no cultists are on site when the characters arrive, giving the party a chance to explore in relative peace. But if you decide the cultists could be in the middle of a dark ceremony to raise the risk and the stakes, none of the cult members are dangerous to a party of the character's level. But the presence of 100 chanting, swaying, convulsing zealots can add a large dose of eerie atmosphere to the character's investigations. Not to mention it would kind of turn into a role-playing dialogue scene versus a dungeon crawl, I think, also, which we could do. It definitely complicates things. Also, they would just assume all Kraken Society cultists would be like Deep Scions and would need to die because all the guys they just fought. So I don't even know if I can get away with doing that or if it would add anything to the adventure. And this, it looks so destroyed. I'm not sure it would even give off the appearance of an actual temple site where people worship versus like a place where you are keeping your nasty monster creature that you want to hide. So I may not have the cultists here at all. So the midspan is this bridge thing right here. Galley pier here. Meeting place. Heavy doors are locked, which are the doors here. Can move this around a little bit. DC 15 dex check. Force them with a successful DC 20 athletics check are broken down by physical force. I mean, they're going to have to get through there. I guess, wouldn't Mr. Dory have the key? Seems like something that would be easy to give the players. And they would be able to successfully confirm, like, yep, this is the place. So I'll probably make that change. Mr. Dory should have the key to the temple. To the temple interior, which is what, T4? T3 is where some scum are hanging out. 4 scum guards. So this dungeon area might be appropriate place to use the scum. Maybe we could treat them like upgraded deep scions, or maybe have nobody even out here because this all still looks destroyed. The characters assemble on the galley pier, created from the ship's deck. The scum rise up and attack with thrown tridents. They have half cover wall in the rubble and engage immediately only if the characters come to them or attempts to open the door in the temple. Fun fact, that stat block I don't believe includes thrown tridents. I actually changed this to short sword. It was trident. But yeah, that thrown trident was not even part of their initial stat block. The Chul haunted hallway is actually inside. Humanoid cultists and aboleth savants aren't the only ones whose dreams have been tainted by Tharzun whispers. 4 Chul also become haunted by the dark god's sendings and were driven to seek out the cult in the Styes. I mean, it makes sense that the Kraken Society could employ creatures, and certainly the Mind Flayer might be able to employ creatures. I don't know if I want to use those. We just had a Chul as kind of a mini boss fight in the last dungeon. And certainly not 4 Chuls. That's also crazy. So maybe it's a good time to use the scum as kind of the upgraded minions for this dungeon crawl part of it. They know the cultists always chant when they're inside the temples. They interpret any voiceless movement in the hallways as a sign of intruders. The Chul can pull down the floor of Area T4 from below, so all creatures in the corridor fall into their grotto. The grotto is roughly circular, 40 feet diameter, and filled with water 20 feet deep. That's cool, but I guess I have to create a separate map for that. Submerged tunnel connects the grotto to the larger tunnel outside, which is this one, I guess. I guess you could always teleport to that map and have them be like, this is on top of that one, even though they're not technically under each other. Wait until characters have filed into the chapel, then tear their way through the floor to climb up and fight in those areas. They can use both tactics. Yeah, that is cool. That's actually a unique situation where it's like, they just come at you from underneath and they fuck up the floor, drag people down, or just scare your backline. They just like appear. Dark God's Chapel, which is this area. The cultists gather to worship Tharzun. The room is filled with nearly 100 of the Dark God's faithful. Yeah, you can't fit 100 fucking people in this room. Brought together by the belief in the imminent end of the world. These warped worshippers pay homage to the Dark God. Unless you prefer otherwise, no cultists are present here when the characters arrive. So this could be where the Mind Flayer is. Because this is basically where the Aboleth is. The Aboleth appears at T6, which is this stairs down here. Stairs in 20 feet into a completely submerged chamber. It's 20 feet square. Several arrows for the character of the temple. The Aboleth fled here from Landgrave's Folly after losing a battle against 2 hostile Aboleths from the Endless Near. It needs to rest here. It plots retaliation to Aboleth. Lurks at the bottom of the stairs just outside the map, but is aware of intruders as soon as they enter Area T5. Because this actual area is not normally on the map. I think Bear added that one in there. While hidden, uses its layer action to cast Phantasma Force, making it appear to the character the dead shark is reanimated and swinging through the air to attack them. That's interesting, I guess, but I think we need that here. If all 4 Chuls are killed, the characters are aware their real names in the water, which characters emerge chamber below the area, and he just kind of talks to him, I guess. So, the order of events in the original adventure is they take out the instigator of everything, which was the Aboleth, but then they see and learn. I don't know if they learn that from Skagath? What his plans are? Yeah, it admits that it is raising a Kraken, but it claims the creature is meant to be used against its enemies in ongoing civil war to impose impacts on Aboleth civilization. The enemies are putting all those offenses around Styes. Just as much the threat as people do it. The character is so inclined, it could use their help in driving them off, concluding some far-flung suicide mission for them on the spot. That's a fun part of the adventure, but not what I'm going with here, which is not an Aboleth civil war. Instead, it's the Mind Flayer who is raising the Kraken. The submerged tunnel snakes westward for nearly a mile. And a few hundred feet off a deserted stretch of coastline, those are landmark in the area is the Spire of Landgrave's Folly, the sunken island where he's been raising the juvenile Kraken. So I don't have a map of this yet. But I'm not using the whole like Aboleth attack anyway. Could I just throw the Kraken like into this room or something? It feels weird pacing wise. Because they could already do the warehouse, and then they could go back, to ref room and be like, all right, we took that out. We've got another location. We're gonna rest. I mean, hell, they could technically even long rest, and I wouldn't really be able to stop them. Other than I could say something like, "Oh, the area is so." It'd be me being a bullshit DM, which is like the area is so polluted and thick that you can't get a full long rest here. All you can do is get a short rest. If I really wanted to be like, "Hey, no long rest in the middle of this adventure," I could do that if they try to push it. It does feel weird, however, to go to this location, the temple, and then fight the Mind Flayer, presumably, and then be told of a third location, which is actually where the Kraken is kept. Especially because I'm not doing the whole Aboleth thing with the pair of Aboleths, like fighting the Kraken, which is what's going on here, I believe. Yeah. Which, again, is cool that you can, like, talk to them. It's kind of a shame I'm not doing all that, I guess. And there's the juvenile Kraken that's still monstrous to behold. And totally nasty, which I could still use. Its magic acts as a beacon for negative energy, generate within 5 miles of it. Also change from these environments of Styes. Energy accelerates the Kraken's growth and fuels its hostility. Normally, such a beast would take decades to reach maturity, but the magic has reduced that time to mere months. If I reach maturity, only a few weeks unless it is destroyed. How big is the juvenile Kraken? Physically. It's cool looking. It's definitely cool looking. God, 200 hit points. Holy fuck. It's a big one. And I could, like, use this room and just kind of decorate it with other things. And skip everything else and just basically be like, all right, Mind Flayer's in this room. Juvenile Kraken's in this room. So that way they can fight the Kraken on their own. So cute, baby Kraken. Yeah. Some like layer actions and shit. It's got legendary actions. We could have fun with that, perhaps. CR14's a little painful for an 8th level party, I admit. God, just straight up can cast like lightning bolts. Well, maybe not quite lightning bolt. 40-10. Jeez. Although it's by itself, maybe not so bad. But yeah, Mind Flayer will definitely need some minions here, so maybe that'll be a chance to use the Scum, and we'll turn this into just kind of a small bit of a gauntlet section, I guess, and maybe not use any actual... Or maybe we can go really crazy and have a bunch of dead cultists, like a bunch of Kraken Society is like using their brains and stuff as well. So he's been ordering, the others, but clearly the Mind Flayer doesn't actually care about the Kraken Society's best interests. They're just using the Kraken Society to further their own ends, which is to grow this other Kraken, and that could be pretty crazy. Yeah, so we gotta put together this map and figure all that out. But I think I've got the basic story in play finally, and I'm basically kind of reducing a lot of the danger. And I think I may just not even use this whole part 5 and just throw the Kraken into this extra water area that's been added to this map, because this is normally, I believe, yeah, it's not even on the original map, so that's kind of nice. And we can just use this map as kind of a mini little dungeon crawl. Maybe we'll add some kind of a trap thing in here just to make it a little bit more interesting for the party to have to deal with. And making this more of a traditional dungeon crawl, but maybe without any like RP elements. But yeah, I think it'll be cool. And I think this whole area will be a lot quicker than the last one, frankly. Like half as long, one might think. Depending on how far we get in the warehouse, we will see. I'll be very curious to see how many sessions the actual warehouse makes it, because it could be very, very complicated and crazy depending on what the players do, which that's just D&D, I guess. All right, that is going to do it for this Monday edition of Crafting the Deep. As always, if you enjoy the content, let's check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Dan, Brennan, Genocider, Eclectic, Roleplay, Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, Jan L, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Kirk Kissel, Counselor, Andrew, Dale, the Reldron, Captain 2079, Stephanie Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Abbott, Lumpy Spud, Shiny, William, David, William, Warden, Cutest Fox, Harold, and Sam. And gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, The Lizard Lion, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Fascator, Scott, Refus, Carolyn, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for support. I will see you for more crafting on Thursday.